Okay, gonna talk about a few recent matches I played on the ladder. I'm just reviewing things. Even though I won several games in a row here, there's definitely room for improvement. One thing I find players do is they don't look at the times that they win to see what could have gone better. I already know that later on in this game, I don't have enough drones. So I do this timing attack. My plan when I start the game here, this is my opponent, the Terran. It's me, the Zerg up here, as always, is that I'm going to make a Roach Hydra army. I only got Zerglings for early defense. I saw multiple Reapers. I actually spotted that with the Overlord. There was a second Reaper on the way. So, oh, that is not the button I wanted to hit. Okay. So, if we look at it from my point of view, where did I actually see that? Must have been sometime around here. Yeah. So I actually spot that. Nope. When I play as purple. So in the replay, it color codes me to the purple 2 for my settings. Oop. Nope, I'm not trying to take command. I'm just trying to continue the replay here. So I did see with this Overlord that a second Reaper was coming out, and that normally means there's some aggression from the Terran player. So there I see the second Reaper. So I make some extra Zerglings to defend that. Turns out my opponent wasn't super committed. But it's still, so I end up making Zerglings that could have been drones. I make this spine just like, I'm thinking at this point, oh, I'm getting all in with a whole bunch of Reapers. And my opponent doesn't do that. So it's a pretty smart play on their part. It forces me to not be able to attack them as quickly. But I have all these Zerglings. I have speed now. I saw that it never really followed up with more Reapers. It would have been here already if that was the case. So now I just, okay, well, I have map control because of the Zerglings. I'm going to go back to making drones for a bit. Okay, my opponent has, I didn't catch exactly what, some Marines and just a barracks there. I can see they're making a factory and some other stuff in the production tab, but I don't have any of this information during the game. I only have what I actually observe on the map. So I leave my Zerglings right outside their base to sort of keep an eye on when the Terran might move out. And I start with my plan to get a layer, get +1 armor because that's super important against Terran. You get the armor first against them, almost all builds. Make a few Banelings with the thought, oh, maybe I'll bust down their wall, but I think they just died to tank fire. I don't even go back and look at that because that's not really an important focus here. So I just leave them out there. They're doing a good job spotting if the Terran tries to move out. I make a layer into Roach Warren because, again, I want to do just a Roach push. And especially when I see that my opponent doesn't appear to have a very fast natural base there, it makes me really want to just go in and attack them with this, because you can't build that much stuff off 2 bases. You need a 3rd base to really have a scary army. So I make Roach speed, I make +1 armor. I have all these queens spreading creep because I want to keep as much of an eye on the map as I can. See, I just started the Hydralisk den there. I'm taking a 3rd base so I can actually have the production to keep all this up. One thing I do notice is that my supply here is looking like it's going okay right now. But when you build roaches and hydras, they take a lot of supply. So you really want to, like, right now 107 and 130 is okay. But this is one of those things where I need to build another, 6 roaches. That's already another 12 supply. Now we're already at 128 out of the 130, so I really need to make more overlords here already, just to be ready to do the more production. I haven't seen my opponent at all on the map, and that concerns me a little bit here. And I have not been doing a good job of looking at what my opponent is doing. I'm super out of practice. I've not been playing. I missed almost a whole season. I played maybe a few games each of the last couple seasons, but I haven't really been playing, 100+ games in any season recently. This is the first one in a while I have. So my creep spread's looking good, but my other vision is very lacking. I don't have an overlord at either of my opponent's potential third bases or fourth base locations. I'm kind of going in here too blind. So my opponent is already at 2-2. And I just finished 1-1. So my opponent has 2 upgrades ahead, an attack and an armor upgrade. I did catch that drop going by, so I rally Hydralisks up there to deal with it. I have not actually been able to click on an opponent's unit to see how strong they were. And I don't either, because up here I'm like, oh, the Hydralisks have it, and then, ooh, the Hydralisks don't have it. But I know I need to go at the front with my plan of attack. So I get up here, okay, well there's a couple tanks and some medevacs, that's not that scary. The corrosive biles are great against tanks, and now I just keep rallying things across the map after I send a small group of roaches up there to deal with that drop that I thought the Hydralisks would clean up. And maybe they would have if upgrades were equal, but another armor against Hydralisks is actually very good because they don't do as much damage per shot, so every armor upgrade is more effective. The Ravagers here, though, are going to town on my opponent's base. I do realize at this point, well, I don't actually know if my opponent has more bases, but they're not playing like they do, so maybe they just don't. But again, I don't have good map vision of here and here, particularly about what my opponent is doing, to know what's going on. But I have a big army. My opponent doesn't seem to have any more tanks, so I just start moving up the ramp to end the game. That is good looking creep spread, though. So they nerfed creep spread between the last time I made a video and this one, I think. It's been a while. And it spreads slower from sources that are not buildings. So each of these creep timbers takes longer to spread out from it. But this is still looking pretty good. It's like it used to be, that you could get to this point, and if you spread as many times as I did, that you could really have the creep right at the doorstep of the opponent. Okay, so notes from this game. Way too blind, like especially on their third and fourth. Creep spread seemed good. Double check your opponent's upgrades. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one I've got here, which is against another Zerg player. And I know what happens here is we both kind of go for roaches, and my opponent attacks, and then my counterattack gets to the win. So let's see, which one am I? Player 1 or 2? Player 1. All right. So I do just this really standard opener I do against every single matchup right now, which, it's been the standard in Zerg versus Zerg for a long time, actually, which is you get the hatch first, and then a gas, and then a pool. It lines up so that your workers can get in gas and then collect 100 gas exactly on time for Zergling speed, and you get the queens right when the second hatchery finishes. I misplaced that hatchery. I caught that. I also am really close to being supply blocked here. Do I have more overlords coming? Okay, I do. Because I'm really good at hitting supply block on 36 and on 44 and on 52. So those are all things I'm trying to work out. The supply blocks are the most important in the early game because that's when it hurts the most to not be able to make a unit. As you get to the mid game, it becomes a little bit less important, but you still never want to be supply blocked after the first minute of the game. It's actually unavoidable for the first minute where you just don't have an overlord made yet. But after that, every instance is preventable. So I saw that my opponent also went hatch first and didn't appear to be doing anything aggressive. So I just skipped making Zerglings and instead went for +1 with roaches. My opponent does come over here and attack because they made their roaches a little bit faster than I did, but I did end up having more. So while they killed the third base, I was able to say, gee, I think my opponent might not have an army anymore. I get over here, oh yeah, they've made a bunch of drones and not more army. So I go kill their third in response. I start at +2 attack, which it looks like my opponent had already done as well. I was aware that we were on 1-1 at the same time there for a while, but I had not caught if they were making... Okay. Yeah, so I had caught that my opponent was on +1 attack. I didn't catch when their carapace upgrade there finished. Then I just keep rallying reinforcements because I see them in such a good position. It's just going to win the game. So a big thing on this one is just cut down the early supply block times. This game ends too fast for there to realistically be Hydralisks that transform into the lurkers. But that is a thing to keep in mind if the game goes on from there. My money is a little bit maybe high here at the end of the game too, but that's because I'm just taking some more bases. I replaced the one that my opponent killed earlier, and I'm getting a new one so I can actually have the larva production. Oh, that's what I should look at too. I haven't. Queens. Yes, queen has 73 energy. That's way too much. That means I missed at least 2 injects, maybe 3. This queen, 3, maybe 4, which is all contributing to me not being able to spend money because I don't have the larva that I need. All right. Let's see, where else are we at here? So, even though these are wins, the point of playing here is not to win games, it's to get better at Starcraft. You know, if you're just focusing on winning games, you're going to be really frustrated all the time. So, there's this thing that happens on the ladder at my level where people who just say good luck, especially as Protoss, are cheesing you. So I just get this read, oh, my opponent is cannon rushing me when they only say good luck and not good luck, have fun there. So I send 3 drones out there, and sure enough, find the probe, chase it off, and, you know, get that cancel. Get the one back here. Actually get the probe, which just ends the threat. Now what I've been seeing a lot of Protoss do is they then transfer to Void Rays. So I'm going for Roach Hydra Army again. And initially it's going to be a bunch of roaches just try to smash things. But then it's going to have Hydralisks, which can actually shoot up and deal with the Void Rays. Okay, I haven't actually been keeping as close an eye on my supply as I'd like. Yeah, see, I lost a Overlord to that Stalker. I had some other Overlords ready to go, but my opponent's been warming the map a little bit with the Stalker here. So I set up this counterattack of Zerglings, although I know there's a cannon at the front, so it's probably not the biggest thing. Unlikely to break through. But yep, there's the Stargates my opponent's putting down. I see on the production tab here. Again, I don't have that information in the game. I have what I see on the minimap here, what I've been able to observe my opponent doing, and just general strategy that I know is possible during the game. Okay. Doing okay on not hitting supply blocks so far, but I haven't started making roaches yet when that becomes a problem. I don't have as good a creep spread this game as I did in the Terran game. I'm definitely not as focused on that. It's super more important against Terran, but it's also very good against Protoss. I did have the thought sometimes the opponents follow up with a Dark Shrine after cannons, and I don't see that I made any Spore Crawlers, because Spore Crawlers would also help protect against Stargate follow-ups. So really, it protects against both common things you see after a cannon rush. I did at least make an Overseer here, but I should almost certainly have a Spore Crawler for detection in each of my mineral lines, and also it's anti-air. I should also maybe be spreading a Creep Tumor up here. Alright. What am I doing attacking with this army? Okay, why am I attacking now? Hang on. I saw something just there. This army's moving across the map I don't remember why. Okay, +1 attack just finishes right now. Is that why I'm moving? So +1 attack finished about 5 seconds ago. Yeah, that probably is. What units do I have? This is a good army to attack with. 20 roaches. Many of which are at home. 8 of them are at home. 5 hydralisks, which are all out here. 12 zerglings. This is not a scary army. Why am I moving out? Like, yes, an upgrade finished, but I'm glad I see I made at least a spore. Okay. This is not a good army to attack with. Why am I moving on the map with this? Like, good if I'm keeping an eye on my opponent, bad if I'm actually attacking right now. Oh, my hydralisks also haven't... Okay, they got their range upgrade now. They don't have their speed upgrade yet, which means they can't run away at all. Because they don't move for anything off creep with this. Okay. Making more drones, but I'm sitting out on the map for some reason. Okay. When I engage, no key upgrade just finished. I just started +2, and what's my army right now? 13 roaches, 8 ravagers, 8 hydralisks, and a dozen zerglings. And then some detection, because again I was thinking, hey, there might be Dark Templar here. This attack, it's still not scary numbers. It needs another like 10 hydralisks to be a really scary army. So I think this might be better off if I was waiting for another round of production. See, there's 4 hydralisks in production and some roaches. Yeah, and this army just gets cleaned up. While I get my opponent's Nexus, if that army had just waited for another 10 or 12 hydralisks, it could have been way scarier attack and maybe ended the game right there. I also see that I'm very blind on the map outside of the creep. I don't have eyes on any of this stuff here or here, which is the most likely bases my opponent would be taking next. I also don't have an overlord up here spotting. Okay. For potential incoming air threats. So these Void Rays show up, and I'm a little bit blindsided by this. Well, I knew they were counterattacking when they destroyed all my hydralisks, but... Yep, and they get the hydralisk then, but... I do get enough queens. Oh, I've made some big-time whiffs on the transfuses here. Some, like, very high-energy queens die here without delivering any transfuses. I realize that this is going to die, so I do start up a hydralisk in time before I lose my lair. But then my opponent also gets my spawning pool and a bunch of overlords there. So I at least don't get supply blocked here yet. I don't know, I might later. Don't remember. I keep sending not enough units up here at a time to deal with these. I need to really just mass a lot more and maybe a little bit further from the ramp so my opponent can't abuse the high ground like this. But eventually I do get enough units up here to clean this up. I have a lot of minerals and not very much gas. Well, 2 gas did just get killed, but this was already being a problem beforehand. So, as I just added my 3rd one there, I only have 1 gas here. So I need to make sure I have a better ratio. Okay, I thought I had killed off all my opponent's Void Rays, so I did move across the map with what I had, which... bunch of Zerglings, 9 hydralisks, and some roaches. Actually, let's look at this when the attack starts, because this attack's already going on. Okay, so the attack starts. 13 hydralisks. How many of those are right here? All of them. Okay, good. So I'm getting them here, grouping things up before I make an attack so that my hydralisks aren't just all in a file like that. They actually come together and can shoot. And for some reason, 6 roaches. Roaches are so not got rid of. I should be making either Zerglings or hydralisks. There is no reason to make a roach right now. I would also note that if I'm going to do this in the future, I should make sure that I get the melee upgrade for the Zerglings, because Zerglings without any attack upgrades are so bad at this point of the game. I don't think my opponent actually got any ground armor, so it's fine, but in most games you gotta make sure you keep up on your upgrades. So eventually get over here. Okay, my opponent does clean this up, but I also come to realize hey, what's going on? Does my opponent have more bases? I need to check that. I also realized, hey, this attack isn't working. I need to get my army back grouped up. So I stop these Hydralisks before they go up here and die one by one. And actually wait for the reinforcements. So I'm fighting with an army and not just 2 units at a time, but an actual army of units. And that goes much better, because now there's 4 Void Rays and the Hydros can take care of them, where if they were coming, 2 and 3 at a time, that would go much differently. Rallied an Overlord here. Oh no, I was going in to check something. Yep, 2 Stargates, and I didn't actually see that we were building the Cybernetics core, but I did destroy it down here, so that makes sense. But yeah, I do realize at some point that I have not seen what's going on at other bases. So here I go into the main, I start destroying things. I also just have rallied some Zerglings here blindly, and it ends up not battering because I went too quickly. Okay, so notes from this game. Again, playing way too blind. That's still the case. Been the case every game I looked at. So I want to keep an eye on where my opponent's expanding next. I want to keep an eye on attack paths, which I don't have at all. In this game, I could definitely have spread the creep more. It should be, out here someplace by now. If my opponent's been doing a really good job of keeping it back, then where my creep spread is at would be fine. But my opponent has not messed with my creep spread at all this game. So keep spotter units out, fight with a whole army, get your upgrades. Like, that's really the big thing. I see that I was continuing to make Zerglings, and I never got any upgrade after speed for them. I got the Carapace, but that's all ground units, so that's not Zergling specific. But I should really get their melee upgrade if I'm going to be using them to do run-bys and that kind of thing. Alright, so that's it for this one, and then the last one that I just played, which I did end up losing. It's another Zerg versus Zerg. And I just didn't do a good job of paying attention to what's going on the map. I might have also misread what role I had in the match at the time, too. So I'll take a look here. Again, Hatch Gas Pool. Just all 3 matchups. That's what I do. Zerg versus Zerg can be tricky because you can try to play the Lingbane Micro Wars. You can try to skip all that and go straight to Roaches. You can try to Lingbane transition into Roaches. And then with Roaches, you can play Roach Ravager, you can play Pure Roach, you can play Roach Hydra. There's also people that are starting to play Lingbane Mutant in this matchup again. I'm terrible at controlling Mutalisks, so I don't even try to do that. I don't think I've played a true late game Zerg versus Zerg in a long time. It typically ends in the early to mid game. So I'm going, okay, Fast Slayer, Roaches. I'm going to try to skip the Zergling speed thing. Or, I got speed, but I'm going to try to skip the whole Lingbane phase of the game. I don't do a good job checking out my opponent's going. That was the first time I saw the Zerglings right there on the minimap. I just saw it. So hang on, we're going to go back and put this at normal game speed. So here's the problem. The first time I see this group of Zerglings, because I don't have my Overlords positioned right, is way too late. Okay, when do I move my Overlord up a little bit there? Okay, so there's my Zerglings going across. See, I don't have vision on this ramp, which means that I don't see Zerglings if they leave that way. It's super bad. Means that my opponent can attack me and I just won't even see it. So I'm thinking, okay, great, we're just going to go play some Roaches, not even mess with the Lingbane Micro. So I start the layer, I start the Roach War, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to get +1 Roaches. Maybe do a timing attack then, depending what it looks like my opponent is doing. But my opponent has different ideas this game, and because I don't have an Overlord in the right place, I see it way too late. I also didn't fly an Overlord into their base and see what's going on. So I see, okay, well, this looks like just one scouting Zergling, but yeah, I should be doing this to my opponent's base too. And I'm not. I have Zerglings. They're sitting here. They need to be doing exactly what my opponent is doing, and I failed to do that. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know that my opponent is running 10 Zerglings across the map until right here, which is when they go through the vision up here. Now, I did catch on the mini-map, but I didn't have time to react because they're already here. They're Zerglings with speed. I need to see them when they're over here. Did they go under this Overlord and I missed it? Or can they really squeeze by that little space? Hang on, actually, I want to see something. So they did go over this Overlord. Okay. I missed that in the game live. That's very interesting. Yep. Oh, my opponent even knew that went under it. So see, if I had spotted them there, instead of putting down this evolution chamber, I maybe put down... Oh no, that probably makes sense still. But I might also make a spine crawler here, pull my queens all to the front so they can block the Zerglings from coming into my base. But because I didn't spot that, I just end up losing to... It takes a few minutes, but I end up losing to this. You know, eventually I try to transition into roaches, but my opponent, having killed a bunch of my workers, is just so far ahead that they have way better upgrades and way more units than I do later in the game. Okay, so this one is just watch the minimap. Also, pro tip, don't just attack move your workers onto banelings. You're doing what your opponent wants you to do, which is losing your workers to the banelings. Yeah, so this is where I lost the game. It goes on for another 10 minutes, but I had lost already here. So, no point watching this one further. Alright, it's just some game analysis. Getting back into things again lately.